All right. Hello. My name is Jones Goldman. Veuillez m'excuser, je ne parle pas français. Je suis en train d'apprendre votre belle langue, mais je vais continuer en anglais. Um, but my name is Jones Goldman, and I'm accepting this award on behalf of my whole team. We focused on analyzing the feasibility of resourcing biogas utilized for electric generation at freeze and wastewater treatment plants for use as a fuel for Paris's bus fleet to operate it in a carbon neutral manner. Before I begin, I would like to give a huge thank you to just huge thank you to the whole team. These three scholars I had the privilege of working with, Kristen Klein, Arafili Jokelis, and Edvilo Bertadini, are minds of little caliber elsewhere, and it's been an absolute privilege to create this proposal with them. I'd also like to thank the panel of jurors, Aaron Mabe, Francos William, Ansar Sochier, Mr. Katan, and our advisor, Professor Sala Driaga. Let's dive right into it. We focused on the transportation sector because we all know global climate change is intensifying and that the immense repercussions of unabated climate change require all of us to step up to the plate and decarbonize our cities. We focused on the transportation sector because transportation acts as a carbon lifestyle intensity leverage point, and that changes to a city's transportation can create reductions in other sectors. For instance, improving public transit can create public transit hubs and encourage housing density around those areas, reducing the emissions from residential single-family sprawl. In addition, it's not only how the transportation sector can leverage the emissions of other sectors that is of concern. Transportation itself produces significant emissions, with transportation as a whole compromising 20% of global energy demand. Transportation is truly a key pivot point, both directly and indirectly in the fight against climate change. And in the case of France, while emissions have declined significantly over the past 25 years, reducing 16.4% from 1990 to 2015, this downward trend in the transportation sector has since stagnated from 2015. And in the Eurozone as a whole, according to the latest European estimates, emissions have actually increased on average by 1.8% since 2018. French energy consumption is still on track to maintain stagnant emissions in the coming decades. So vast changes are going to need to be made in French cities if the country is going to bring its energy system in line with a zero carbon limit, especially in the largest energy consumer of all, transportation. But there is some good news. Paris is leading the way in this change, and its transportation authority, the E4C, has released a plan to meet all the city's bus requirements from zero carbon sources by 2025. In order to do this, the E4C plans to bring online 4,500 buses, 2/3 of which will be battery electric, and 1/3 of which will be sourced from biomethane harvested in a carbon neutral manner. However, you may be asking the question, why not just go fully electric? Well, there are benefits and drawbacks to both electric bus and compressed natural gas technology. Currently employed electric bus technology has a range of between 289 and 410 kilometers, whereas biogas fuel buses have a range equivalent to most internal combustion engines at around 821 kilometers. Electric buses also take between 48 and 97 minutes to recharge, depending on battery range, while to totally refuel a compressed natural gas bus, depending on tank size, takes around factors in a fully battery electric bus would require a greater total number of buses to operate the same kilometerage of bus routes. Biogas fueled buses can travel further and take less time to fill up than current electric bus models. More idle bus time requires more buses to run the same number of miles in a given day. Meanwhile, adopting a methane-powered bus system not only provides for greater flexibility due to the charging limits of electric vehicles, but also would save on the number of infrastructure itself, the number of coaches, the number of required servicing infrastructure, the number of bus drivers, and other labor costs involved in service employees compared to a totally electric bus system. And also looking at biogas fueled buses compared to the traditional diesel buses that they're phasing out, we found that biogas buses produce 340 fewer kilograms of CO2 per kilometer traveled compared to the traditional diesel buses. However, this does raise the question, though, is it a feasible technology in getting to a zero carbon level if battery electric buses can be powered by low carbon or zero carbon electricity? Well, there are a couple ways we could power biogas from zero carbon sources. One thing that's been looked at is biofuels. While Paris has committed to sourcing the fuel for its compressed natural gas bus fleet from carbon neutral biofuels, it has of yet not provided any details as to where these fuels will be sourced from. And this presents a slight issue, as not all biofuels are less emissions intensive than the fossil fuels they are intended to replace. For instance, biofuels' worst offender, palm oil, due to the land use change involved in the destruction of carbon sequestering rainforests to make way for fuel crop plantations, creates a carbon debt from land use change that is estimated to take 420 years for the fuel generated annually from a hectare of palm oil to be less carbon intensive than traditional fossil fuel usage. Rapeseed, another crop that has been touted as a source to provide carbon neutral biofuel, also has a higher emissions footprint than the fossil fuels it intends to replace, and resulting land use change in meeting the fuel needs. The RITP then might look to anaerobic digestion of food to meet their bus fuel needs. However, reliance on crop waste also comes with the risk in that should there be insufficient organic waste, the RITP might have to source crops further up the value chain to get their necessary fuel requirements, potentially displacing agricultural areas and requiring new land to be moved to agricultural use in order to meet the heightened and competing demands for both food and fuel. So if crop-based biofuels are not the answer to help Paris achieve carbon neutrality in the transportation sector, what is? There is a biological energy source that runs zero risk of creating land use change emissions from displacing crossland, and while you may not want to think about it, it's right underneath your feet. Waste to energy is quite simply taking a waste product at the bottom of the value chain and converting it into an energy product. Currently, 2.5 million cubic meters of wastewater run through Paris every day. Our proposal focuses on how this sewage generated by the municipality can be converted into bus fuel. In order to create fuel from waste, the following chemical process will be used. However, currently, Paris's wastewater treatment plant infrastructure collects a biogas composed of 50 to 70% methane and 30 to 50% carbon dioxide. Meaning to be used as a carbon neutral bus fuel, it would have to be further refined into a more pure methane. Currently, Paris collects 528 gigawatt hours annually of biogas from its two largest wastewater treatment plants, the Saint-Avold and the Saint-Amant facilities. 81% of the city's harvested biogas, or 456 gigawatt hours, is collected from the Saint-Avold plant. Of this, 60% is used to meet the thermal demands of the plant required by the sewage treatment process. Heating the sewage, boiling water, while the remaining 40% of the biogas harvested is used to meet internal electrical requirements of Paris's wastewater treatment plant infrastructure. If the city is to achieve carbon neutrality, biogas currently utilized to meet the thermal demands of the city's wastewater treatment plant infrastructure should be continued to be used for thermal purposes. Otherwise, some form of fossil fuel will likely need to be shipped in and combusted to make up for the shortfall in thermal energy and to provide the necessary heating energy. However, this still leaves 40% of biogas currently harvested from the city and used to meet the electrical demands of Paris's wastewater treatment plants that could instead be converted into biomethane and used to fuel the city's compressed natural gas bus fleet. Given the abundance of low carbon electricity from France's nuclear output and the energy density of biogas compared to electricity, it would make more sense to utilize any available biogas resources towards meeting the needs of Paris's transportation sector, where France lacks a lot of low carbon options, instead of directing it towards meeting stationary electrical energy demands like that of the city's wastewater treatment plants, for which France has low carbon electrical energy in abundance. So what is the potential of this 211.2 gigawatt hours of biogas currently harvested within the city of Paris to meet the city's transportation needs. How far and how much the bus fleet can we run off of currently collected biogas resources? Above is a snapshot from a GIS model of the total kilometers of the Parisian bus fleet must travel in a day. We use this to estimate the energy requirements of the Parisian bus fleet itself and how much of the currently collected biogas resources could be used, how much the kilometers the bus fleet travels could be operated off available biogas resources. We found if rerouted and refined from biogas into biomethane, the biogas that Paris currently uses to supplement the electrical energy demands of its wastewater treatment plant infrastructure could operate 89% of the total kilometers the city's buses travel in a given day. The greater range and reduced time to refuel compressed natural gas vehicles compares to battery electric buses means that each compressed natural gas vehicle would likely be expected to travel a greater percentage of the Parisian bus routes than their electric vehicle counterparts. However, biogas that's currently harvested within the city is more than enough to meet this energy demand of Paris's compressed natural gas bus fleet. The biogas capacity of Paris currently used for electrical demand could be rerouted without impacting the thermal requirements of wastewater infrastructure, and as I said, would provide more than enough to operate its local transportation needs. Creating an energy solution that is both zero carbon, local, and resilient. And the Paris Public Transportation Agency is already building the infrastructure to handle methane for its bus fleet, having placed an order for 1,500 buses compatible with methane. The demand for methane will be there by 2025. The question is simply how city decision makers will meet this energy demand. And this is why our proposal is so important. As while the Paris municipality has stated its intention to operate its compressed natural gas bus fleet solely from carbon neutral biomethane, it has not yet released a plan as to where these resources will come from. And while there is no current sourcing plan for carbon neutral biomethane, what there is in France is an established fossil fuel energy import system for natural gas, as the country imports 60% of its liquid natural gas fuel from nearby Algeria. Without a readily available alternative, it would be easy to fall back on relying on Algerian energy exports due to the existing established energy pathway of convenience. It would be immensely tempting for decision makers to delay the full implementation of carbon neutrality within Paris's bus system and fall into existed, though far from carbon neutral energy pathways, utilizing fossil fuel gas to meet the city's bus energy needs, especially as Parisian bus authorities in the E4C intend to fuel a portion of their compressed natural gas bus fleet with natural gas imports until 2025 or until they can completely find a suitable replacement. In conclusion, we believe that by looking at Paris and other cities as an integrated energy system, a more strategic optimization of energy resources can be made within the system as a whole, rather than what is currently made by decision makers within the information silos of their own organizations. It makes sense for the managers of a city wastewater infrastructure, given the realm that they oversee, to utilize biogas for electrical energy needs of the plants they operate. However, when the needs in terms of energy mobility and the limitations of existing battery electric bus technology are considered, energy use can be optimized by utilizing available biogas for use in transportation and sourcing the resulting electrical energy requirements of wastewater treated infrastructure from the grid for stationary electrical needs. So we can actually meet both transportation and wastewater treatment plant infrastructure and electrical energy needs in a carbon neutral fashion and meet our goals under the accords that bear the city's right name. Thank you very much.